How do you win the new mobile economy? Hello and welcome to Retention Masterclass. My name is John Koetsier.
Great, John. And of course, I'm Peggy and Salz. We're your co-hosts for today's show.
The new economy runs on subscriptions, right? News, games, videos, transportation, right? Uber, Lyft, homes, where you live, your rent, maybe, other things like that, newer ways of having a home and living in a place. Meals as well, meals on wheels, and lots of different services, right? Almost everything is or can be a subscription.
And to your point, John, it's interesting. I've been doing some research into this, right? And they're calling it the coronavirus bump, actually. And this is huge time for subscriptions, not just streaming. That's the biggest one, but they are huge. They're part of our new economy in our new normal, our next normal, and awesomely interesting as well. The absolute monetization model everyone's excited about, because what's better than cash flow, right?
Research, hey, I don't think that's what your husband calls it when he keeps getting those packages every month, but hey, whatever you got to tell him to make it work, not a problem. Anyways, today, you're right, Peggy, subscription is driving so much revenue, right? Today, we're chatting with an expert, right?
Absolutely. So we're going to be talking to someone who's looking at the subscription model, going to give us some cool data, some great ideas around it. Welcome to Retention Masterclass, Vitaly Davydov, CEO, co-founder of Adapty. Great to have you.
Hi, Peggy. Hi, John. It's nice to meet you.
Excellent. Great to meet you. Great to have you as well. Let's start off right here, right in the middle. What's so critical about subscriptions that you started a whole company focused on optimizing them?
Yeah, so, we work with mobile subscriptions especially. And what really caught my attention is that if you pick a random app in the App Store or Google Play, and if it's not a game, it will have a subscription. So I can certainly say that most applications monetize with in-app subscriptions. And the point is only a tiny percent of users, like 3% of users, become paid subscribers. And this number is decreasing. And 80% of subscribers unsubscribe pretty quickly in just 3 months or 4 months. So that's what really caught my attention. And either most applications have subscription, but tools for working with them effectively does not exist yet. I mean, you can work with Amplitude or you can work with the Apps Flyer, but if you want your own BI or an analytical system, you need to build it in-house. And in general, I just believe that it's a future.
I took a look at your product really quick. I took a look at your site really quick, and it really made me think this is kind of CRM for the mobile subscription economy. Is it an accurate description?
So when I tell about Adapty, I say it's a one-stop solution for in-app subscriptions. So basically, we give everything to deploy, analyze, and optimize subscriptions. But we also have, kind of a CRM for mobile subscribers. That's true.
That was a polite no, Peggy.
I looked at it, I thought it was a little bit more about like AI for LTV in a way, is when I was looking at it. Am I a little closer?
Yeah.
A little closer. Okay.
Come on.
So let's jump just back a little bit, because you come from a physics background, and I'm trying to think physics to pricing. Not the usual jump. Sounds a little bit sort of along the way, something bumped and connected in a very different way. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about your background, founding Adapty, looking at AI for LTV, or maybe it's CRM for subscription apps, whichever it is. How'd you get there?
Well, yeah, it's a great question. I mean, physics is really cool. I really like physics. And I did my bachelor in physics with a good mix of computer science and data science. And, modern physics is really about numbers rather than doing these, experiments in life. So you work with data. And as a hobby, I've been developing mobile applications since iOS 4. So since 2011 or something like that. Or pretty long. Yeah, so for a pretty long time. And, I've even passed a Stanford course about iOS, and then back in that time it was a big success course, a pretty cool course. And I was working as a research engineer at University College London, So we've been doing things related to computer vision, related to data structures and analysis. But, I'm really more about production rather than research. And that's why my first full-time job was at a company called EZ10. So back in time, it was in 2016. EZ10 was a leading mobile application for language learning in Europe. And I joined as a data analyst and data scientist, and pretty quickly switched to marketing. And so I was really solving tasks about, how do we make sure that we ROI positive when we buy traffic? How do we optimize our apps, our funnels, and etc. And then after 2 years, me and my co-founder have left EZ10 and founded our own mobile studio that helped mobile developers to integrate machine learning solutions into the app. And surprisingly, most of our customers ask to build BI system for them, not more machine learning solutions, but BI systems, so they can measure their mobile economy. And after a year, after 15 successful cases, we realized we can do something out of it. And then iOS 13 was released, with this small prompt when you uninstall app with an active subscription. You're asked to unsubscribe, and we've seen a churn rate just jumped 10 times. And we started thinking maybe we can do something out of it, and that's how we started.
Cool. So, at its core, it's the challenge is pricing, right? I mean, where do you price things? How do you configure your prices? Are you pricing too high? Are you pricing too low? Do you not have the right range? What are some of the factors that determine the right price range for a subscription?
First of all, it's individually based on each app individually. But when we talk about optimal pricing, I really want to tell about subscription retention. So the first question you need to answer is, maybe you're already in the optimal position and you don't need to change anything right now. So the first thing you need to do is compare yourself to a market. Probably find some statistics on App Annie or Adjust. They publicly announce a lot of benchmarks. And so take a look at your sales funnel, how people convert from install to trial, from trial to first purchases, and etc. Maybe you're already good. And take a look at your billing issue. So answer the question why people cancel subscription. Either they have a billing issue or they cancel it just because they don't like a product. And that's two primary tools that you need to consider before optimizing subscriptions. So again, start from measuring what you have right now. And then if we're talking about optimization, the first thing is definitely take a look at location data. I mean, people in different countries, they experience differently with your product. For example, in CIS countries, people are willing to pay more, but without subscription. So they're fine to buy a lifetime license for $100, $200, but they don't want to pay $10 per month. It's really weird. But
which countries was that again?
In CIS, like in Russia, for example.
Yes. Cool.
So it's a kind of mentality.
Interesting. Cool. So I interrupted you there. Please continue.
Yeah, and the next thing you can take a look, which is the data you can take from device without access to IDFA or some sensitive info about user, is the device model itself. So if you collect this data and if you link it to a chain of transactions, you can pretty quickly understand how people from different devices and again countries spend in your app, and you can use it to price them better. So this is the easiest thing you can do just right out of the box.
Cool.
Yeah, location, that would make a lot of sense. I mean, I did some looking into this because I did have to do some research, John, for real, into the philosophy of subscriptions. It turns out that there's the fallacy of I believe it's cost, or don't quote me. But anyway, the whole idea is that you have committed, and therefore, because you've committed, you will never say, I made a real mistake.
Sunk cost fallacy.
Sunk cost. There you go. You did the same research, John. So much in common. But the sunk cost fallacy. In any case, the idea is that there are levels of commitment that people are willing to make. And oftentimes what happens is that the app developer, the app company, is actually underpricing what they offer, which I thought was fascinating. I thought that's interesting. A big mistake is that marketers underprice their services in a very volatile market. But what would you say are the biggest mistakes? One I'm hearing here is that they should pay attention to location data. What are some others?
Do you have any ideas why people underprice their product? I have an answer.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
Shoot, now we have to answer this. This is not how it works.
I have a thought that they underestimate the value, but I won't go there. I have some thoughts, but
I'll shoot a guess out. I'm not afraid of making a fool of myself. Happens all the time. I have a lot of experience with it. It's all good. I'll hazard a guess. I think that sometimes marketers underprice their offering because they undervalue it, because they're so close to it that they don't actually see the value that it has in somebody's life, potentially. I'm sure the opposite happens as well, but Vitaly, please tell us the data.
Yeah.
So as far as I can see, when you launch an app, the first question is, what price do I need to set? So you have two primary answers for it. So the first one, you take your closer competitors and you make it a little bit less. But the next thing, you take Apple Music price and you set it as a price in your product, and for example, in many countries, Apple Music is pretty cheap.
Yes.
I mean, it can be $2 per month, $3 per month, and no more. And that's why lots of products are cheap in many countries. I mean, if we don't take tier 1 countries, marketers really undervalue products in non-dollar countries.
In other words, they're setting their pricing based on what they think people are used to paying for a subscription service rather than the value they think that they're delivering.
Exactly. So they say, okay, Apple Music is $9.99 per month. Probably people are okay to pay this price. Let's set it.
Now, what's the solution to that? How do you fix that?
Well, what we did is you need to test. Again, you want to understand what the dependency between the price and a subscription retention rate. So you take, for example, 10% of your audience, you make a price 20% higher, and then you test. Which metrics do you have? How many billing issues? How many cancellations you'll have? And this, you'll have a dependency. You'll have some curve that probably if you increase on 20%, nothing will happen at all. If you increase 2 times, maybe you will see a churn rate up to 30%, but not 2 times. And it's really about this curve. And the best marketers I know, they know this curve really perfectly among different segmentations, among different countries, different devices, different platforms, even on Android and iOS. And it's really cool.
Wow.
I mean, if you know this elasticity.
Wow. Very, very cool. Now, you said recently that 80% of all purchases are made during onboarding. I want to talk about that a little bit, what that means, what the significance is, because often there's a perception that get them to use the product and upsell them over time, right? And Peggy and I have actually interviewed several people, including a former Google product manager, who said, no, there's a hard paywall. You pay to get in, then you're in. And you're saying 80% of those purchases happen during onboarding. Talk to us about what that means and what the significance is.
Yeah, so just in 2 words, onboarding is a first couple of screens before you dive into the main app. And our statistics show if you sell during these couple of screens, you will have the most monetization out of your app. And I think the big idea is you make your sales funnel shorter. So during these 3 screens, you promise a lot to a user. And that's why you have a lot of commitments. So if you have a great paywall where you clearly explain what a user will get if he will activate this pro account or premium account, it works. But it doesn't affect the long-term value for subscriptions. Yes, you can get more first-time purchases or trial, but it won't affect your long-term value. Probably not. If your app is not that good, it won't affect in the long term. But still, it works. And before iOS 13, with this little prompt of unsubscription, it was the main tool to monetize. You just set a paywall as a first screen in the app, and then you just buy traffic. And TechCrunch, for example, they didn't like it, and a lot of media didn't like it, and a lot of users didn't like it, and that's why Apple is now fighting with it. And so 2 years ago it worked, but now it doesn't work as good as it used to be. So it's still important, but Apple really is pushing the development community to switching to more classical ways of marketing, like you've said.
Okay, interesting. So it's not working as well anymore, and Apple is pushing people to offer some value in the app and then a paid tier of service. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So you talk about it being during onboarding, right? And then there are like micro steps in that. It's all about getting them those first few minutes, but it's all about placement as well. Where in that journey, even how, perhaps maybe in how you're doing the experiments. I'd like to hear, first of all, what types you can do, but also what can you experiment with? Is this something like with mobile ad creatives that I can change the color or change the placement, change the creative? So tell me how you're looking at the experimentation to get that placement right.
Well, let's see. So I think it's still worth to optimize the first couple of steps. Mm-hmm. So what you can do is, first you can experiment with different onboardings. But if you take a closer look on your payroll, you can generally change two things. The first thing are things related to pricing, those two SKUs and Apple or Google products. And with it you can experiment with many things, like a trial or non-trial subscriptions. You can increase and decrease price, change periods, or you can do upselling, for example. So Apple released, I think a year ago, a new tool called subscription offers. Again, they clearly show that they're doing the steps towards more classical marketing ways to monetize. Or you can try, different introductory promotional offers, or you can even do, again, targeting, like different locations, devices, etc. And it's all just about pricing and SKUs. But you can also change texts. You can test images, you can test media, you can test layout, how it appears to a user, right? Mm-hmm. And you can change order. So if you have three onboarding screens and then you have a paywall, you can do a test where you put your paywall on a second or third screen or on a fourth screen, or you can even check hard versus soft paywall. Those affects conversions.
Mm-hmm. Any rules of thumb there? I'm just wondering, because if you think about it, you're saying, okay, you can have like X number of screens and then you get to the offer. You can change your wording around. I mean, I'm sure some people in our audience would say, great, so what's the killer pitch?
And Vitaly's going to tell you it's different for every app.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. It's not going to be buy now.
There's no magic word. There's no magic formula.
Or magic placement. It may be that two screens in, and then boom, you get it on the third, and then it has to maybe have this or that word. I'm just curious. You've seen enough with your clients. Share a little.
Well, what I think is the biggest mistake is to hide paywall under a login screen. So again, just think about it as a sales funnel. You make your sales funnel longer. You just put it before your login screen. I think it's crucially important. Mm-hmm. I see two primary strategy for first paywalls. So the first one is when you quickly show onboarding, just the sliding cards, 3 cards. Mm-hmm. And the second one is when you ask users to fill a form. Like, it's commonly in fitness apps when you're asked, like, enter your weight, your height, your age, and etc. Mm-hmm. Well, what I think is the first strategy works best, and it's faster to implement. So you just need to change pictures. So it's pretty fast, and you can do it remotely without new app releases. What I also see now is selling yearly subscriptions now works better than selling monthly or weekly subscriptions, because people can't measure it. You get a lot of money upfront, and it's less risky than asking a user to pay each week. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so we see now a rise of yearly subscriptions.
It's
which
also
are
nice
pretty
as a
cheap.
consumer. It's also nice as a consumer because I can make one decision for the entire year. I don't have to make a decision every week or every month or anything like that. That's just annoying. And I can feel like I'm paying a lump sum and I'm getting a significant term of service. And I feel good about that. And I don't feel like I'm paying out every single month. I mean, I have that. Peggy, I don't know, we do car insurance, right? I do
Mhm.
car insurance on a month, on an annual basis. Some people do it
Yep.
on a monthly. I like to get that payment out of the way. I wanted to bring up a question here that somebody on YouTube asked, Thomas. Did consumers or developers get smarter? That was when you were talking, Vitaly, about subscriptions and not working as well to have them immediately as you enter the app, right? Do you have an answer for that?
Well, I think just Apple made it smarter for iOS users. I mean, with iOS 13 release, made it really, really clear how you unsubscribe. So I cannot tell about all users or all developers, but Apple is really protecting you from subscribing to a wrong product.
Agree. And we have to mention, as we're talking about subscriptions, that there have been people who have totally abused the system and abused consumers here, right? You've got like the
Exactly.
flashlight app or the app that does nothing, and you subscribe and it's like $100 a month or $100 a week or something like that. And there's people who literally made millions of dollars scamming people on that stuff. And so there had to be some protections put in place. Vitaly, I want to talk about metrics for a little bit. Do the metrics change if you're moving to a subscription-based app and you previously were in perhaps in-app purchase? And do the metrics that you use change? Do the metrics that you pay attention to change? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, can I just briefly tell about yearly subscriptions? There are two
Yes.
really important things here. Yeah.
Mhm.
So the first thing is most developers don't care about second and third conversions. I mean, it's fine. You grab your $100 right now, but what about the next year? User's card can expire, and there's a lot of risks for second charges. And if you're using Apple ecosystem, you can unsubscribe during these 364 days and return money back.
Oh, that's dangerous as a publisher.
Yeah.
Wow.
You can use a product for 3 months, then forget about it. And then again, after 3 months, you can write to Apple support and say, hey, I really don't like this product anymore. I've been using it just 3 months out of the whole year.
Vitaly,
So-
you're giving millions of people a big idea right now. Did you know that? Wow. I did not realize that was a risk factor. Interesting, Peggy.
I didn't realize that either. And if you think about it, what that does then to the model, because the whole idea was, oh, I'll just look at this one price. So
Yes.
it's telling us that actually in the A/B testing, it has to be elastic. If people think they can just ask for annual and get away with it, it's not a slam dunk, as you would say, John.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Vitaly, then I'll ask you the question I was going to ask you, which is just around the metrics. If you move to a subscription model, which many apps are doing, from an in-app purchase model, perhaps from a ad monetization model, what does that change in the metrics that you care about and look? Anything?
Yeah, of course. So it's my favorite question here because it's basically what we're focusing on right now. So when we talk about one-time purchases, you really have a simple mathematics, you really have a simple economy, right? You know whether user converted or not, and you have a single dot. But when we tell about subscriptions, we tell the primary metric here is LTV and RPPU. The whole thing is around these two words.
Yes.
And so you really need to somehow predict or calculate those two metrics. And if you can calculate them in a clever way, in an accurate way, you can do more risky things. So for example, you can do more expensive weekly subscriptions rather than doing a yearly subscriptions, And so if you know, then in 3 months, in 4 months, or even half a year, you will be ROI positive, just because you know your numbers in unit economy, you know what's the customer acquisition cost, you know how people convert for these weekly subscriptions. You can calculate whether you will be profitable or not. And so that's the key here, is to know about your LTV. I believe so.
Okay. Okay, cool. Thank you.
And of course, drilling down into that, it's also knowing about your audience. And this is, of course, Retention Masterclass. We talk about audience, we talk about engagement marketing, getting their attention and then getting them to come back, keeping them loyal. A big part of this is what I'm hearing is customization. So John, for example, he wants to get his car insurance out of the way in one shot. And other people might say, oh, I'm more of a monthly person, or you even talked about weekly subscriptions, which is something I haven't seen a lot of. So how do you go about that customization? I'm hearing A/B testing, but how granular can this get? Does John get a different price offer because John is different from me? I mean, are we going to get down to not just
airline pricing models?
Yeah, segment of one. We're going to get down to the price of one. I mean, this is exciting stuff. How far can I go?
Well, it depends on the platform that we're talking about. Because we're talking about Apple ecosystem, it's really hard to go really deep into granularity, because sharing data, personal user data, is kind of hard inside the Apple ecosystem. And with iOS 14 release, it will be even harder, I believe, much more harder. And so again, what you can do now, it depends on your marketing team and size. If you're only one or two marketing guys in the team, you're probably enough with device and location segmentation. It will be just fine, and you will grab most of your users effectively. So, for example, you can even distribute pricing based on cities. So you can do in capitals more pricing than in side areas. So that's it. But if somebody shared the price with you, price and data, like gender, for example, it's really common to segment by gender. You can use it as your flag to do the same kind of analysis. So try to calculate your sales funnel for different age groups, and again, try to target them and trying to find elasticity for them.
Cool.
So very interesting. So finding that right price for the right audience, right price, right user, right time, right place, right context. It's another one of those points to keep in mind. Real quick question in a sentence. What can't I do? Is there a no-go here?
Don't hide your paywall.
There you go.
Really, I mean, for the last couple of months, I've seen around 50 apps or even more, and half of them just hide monetization somewhere far in the settings. I mean, man, how can you monetize your app if I can't find a place where I need to pay?
Okay. Well, that's good. That's definitely a good motto. Even a T-shirt, Vitaly. It was great having you here on Retention Masterclass.
It was great having you. Thank you so much. That was
thank you so much.
That was very, very insightful. For everybody else who joined us, whatever platform you're on, hey, like, subscribe, share, comment, all the above. If you love the podcast, listen to the podcast later on, we love you too. Please rate and review it. That would be a massive help.
Absolutely. And until next time, of course, it's a wrap for today, but we keep coming back. In the meantime, keep well, keep safe. This is Peggy and Salz signing off with Retention Masterclass.
And I'm John Koetsier. See you soon.